What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiancé Before the 90 Days, Season 7, Episode 8, For Whom the Bell Tolls. Let's get into Brian and Ingrid. So, they haven't spoken since the hotel incident. And what is the hotel incident, you ask? The hotel incident is after Ingrid had introduced Brian to her friends. They go to a hotel to spend some quality time together, and he had gotten her like this really sexy lingerie, this bra and panty set, very, very sexy. And the intention was for them to consummate their relationship that night. But unfortunately, they didn't have any condoms. Brian didn't have any condoms with him. And so instead of just, killing the night, Brian had wanted to do other things with Ingrid. He was trying to pleasure her orally, and she was not having it. So she stopped him before he got too far. So when she stopped him, he got offended and he got up and he left. So to him, her not allowing him to perform that particular act on her, it made him feel rejected. It made him second guess their whole entire relationship. He began to talk about how he thought that maybe she really wasn't that into him, that maybe she had an issue with his disability. And I'm like, Brian, you're projecting a lot of stuff on Ingrid, because just because she didn't want you to do that one specific thing, you're creating this whole narrative about how she has an issue with your disability. She really doesn't like you. The relationship is over. And I just didn't understand, like, why are we going so far left with very little to base that on? So Ingrid explains to us that the reason why she stopped him was because she really just didn't feel comfortable. She said that oral sex to her is a lot more intimate than regular sex, and that's why she didn't let him go any further, which is totally understandable. She doesn't even have to give a reason. The fact that the producers or whoever kind of like was trying to get a reason out of her, a justification out of her, I thought, was a little bit unnecessary. She doesn't have to explain herself. If she didn't want to do it, she didn't want to do it, point blank, period. So she said also that it was sort of a turnoff for her how eager he was, like how he really was trying to, get to the cookies, and he was desperate or a little bit overly enthusiastic about it, or I don't know what. So that also made her feel uncomfortable. So Brian is having a conversation with his sister about it, and I don't have any siblings. So I don't know, is this normal for a brother to talk to his sister about? I didn't know how to take that. I don't have any siblings, so I don't know. Maybe it is normal. Maybe this is what brothers and sisters talk about. But he was having a conversation with his sister about what happened, how because they weren't able to have sex, he wanted to perform oral sex on her, but she didn't want it, and he felt rejected. And the sister said, well, oral sex for women is a lot different than oral sex for men. For men, it's not a big deal. Anybody can, whatever. That's not a big deal to men, okay? But for women, it's a whole lot different. It's a lot more intimate. And that's not something that a woman is going to let just anybody do to her. So he began to understand it a little bit better. And her reasoning was identical to Ingrid's reasoning of why she didn't want to go through with that particular act. So Brian thinks that Ingrid has been very standoffish, that she's been acting like she's no longer interested in him. And he doesn't even take into account or into consideration how he's been acting. That if she is being standoffish and distant, which I really haven't seen that a lot, because, for example, when he showed up at her doorstep at night unannounced, she went with it. She let him come in. She spent time with him. Anytime that he wanted to do something or go anywhere, she was always, willing to do it. So I don't know how she's coming off as standoffish and distant. Um, I mean, I do see that she is probably a little bit reserved, but I don't know if it's her personality. Brian thinks that it's got something to do with her not really liking him. So, it was even more of a rejection for him, like I said before, that, when she didn't want him to do the oral thing, it was even more of a rejection, because he's been thinking that, she's not really feeling me that much, and I'm trying to do something to pleasure her, to make her happy, and she's not wanting that. And so it just kind of adds on to all the reasonings in his mind of her not really feeling him. So, but then again, he can't forget that she was willing to have sex with him. The only thing that was stopping that was the lack of protection. I don't know if he forgot about that. She put on the lingerie, and I felt like him bringing her that lingerie was probably going a little bit too far. That's something that I would expect if a couple has been together for a while and they have already been intimate, for a man to bring a piece of lingerie that was that sexy and that risque. The fact that they're trying to get to know each other, and I think this might be the first time that they've actually met in person, for him to bring that to her, like, how do you know what her comfort level is? How do you know that she would be willing to wear something like that? I thought him bringing that lingerie to her this early on in their relationship was a little bit too aggressive and forceful. She didn't have to wear it, but the fact that she did wear it should tell him that she is interested in him. She put on the lingerie. She was willing to have sex with him. I don't understand why he feels like she's not feeling him. So let me go back to my notes here. Um, 2 days later, they meet to talk, and they talk about what happened at the hotel. She explained herself the way she explained to us. He did apologize. He did take accountability for it. He did say he was sorry. She accepted his apology, and then he told her that he wanted to take another trip with her. And she agreed, and she was really happy and enthusiastic about going on this trip with him. She got up, she gave him a hug and a kiss. She seemed really happy. So I don't know why, what Ingrid Brian is referring to when he talks about how he's getting, signs or mixed signals that she doesn't like him. I don't know. It seems like, she's willing to give this relationship a shot up until, as far as we've seen so far. Let's move on to Niles and Matilda. So it's the last day in Accra, because after that, they're going to take a trip to Matilda's hometown for him to meet her family. So Niles wants to propose to her before they leave Accra. So they go, and he also wants to tell her that he wants to postpone the wedding. Now, this whole thing about the wedding, when we hear Matilda talk about the wedding, she's talking about it as if this wedding is going to take place. The guests have been invited. Everything is like falling into place, like a real wedding is going to be happening. The plans have been made, the preparations have been made. Like, it's a real thing that's going to be happening. But then to hear Niles talk about it, he's very kind of like, I don't know if he understands how far she has gone into preparing the wedding. I don't even know how far. I mean, we haven't seen evidence of a wedding being planned, but the way Matilda talks about it, it's as if the ball is rolling. Like, it's set. It's going to happen. The venue has been selected, the food has been selected, the guests have been sent invitations. She talks about it like it's really going to take place. But Niles, he's very kind of like, well, I need her to know that I want to postpone the wedding. Do you know how far she's gone in the preparation of the wedding? I'm very confused about Niles and Matilda and exactly what they think is going on with this wedding. But anyway, Niall says he wants to propose to her. He has already gotten the ring, and he wants to go to the place where I forgot what like the memorial, the memorial of Ghana's first president. So that's where he wants to propose to her. It's a very beautiful setting, and so he also plans on telling her that he wants to postpone the wedding. So he gets the proposal. Oh, before the proposal, he had 20 maxims that he wanted to go through. So he asked her, did you go through the 20 maxims that I sent you? And she was like, no. And so then he's like, well, let's go through them together. And his 20 maxims are just like words to live by for him. And the reason why he wanted her to read them was because he wanted to basically prepare her for when he drops the bomb on her that he doesn't want to get married on this trip. So he wants to like let her read these maxims so that she can take something out of them, so that she can know that, hey, it's not a big deal if we don't get married right now, or something like that. So he proposes to her. She accepts. She was really, really happy about it. I think she said that in Ghana there is no such thing as like a proposal. When two people want to get married, they just decide to get married and they make it happen. But the proposal to her was a very sweet gesture. It was a very romantic gesture. So later on that night, they go to a nightclub, and it's a very low key club. It was nothing wild and crazy, but he did bring his noise cancellation earpods because he settings like nightclubs and bars and stuff like that, they kind of trigger his his he becomes very overly sensitive, so overly stimulated. He becomes overly stimulated. But it was a very low key type of place. So they're sitting down at the table, they order drinks, everything is very romantic. She's really happy about the proposal. And so then he finally tells her that he's got something to tell her. He wants to talk about something. And you can see him trying to like get himself together, trying to gear himself up to tell her this news. So he tells her that um, they should not get married on this trip. And the reason is because he said, I want to be my best for you, and we need to get to know each other better. So she's all kinds of confused. So she asked him, why did you let me tell my family that we were going to be getting married? And she talks about how it's really embarrassing for her because he basically, I guess, led her on to believe that they were going to be getting married on this trip. This is where I'm confused because either your girl was jumping to conclusions or your boy is extremely manipulative and I'm going to have to say deceitful, because if he had no intentions of getting married on this particular trip and he hears her talking about how she's excited that they're going to be getting married, how she's planning this wedding, how she's told her friends and family about it, and I don't know how much detail she went into in telling him about the wedding, but he's definitely understanding that Matilda thinks a wedding is taking place and that it's taking place very soon. How could he let her go down that path with him knowing that he had no intentions of marrying her on this trip? Like, I don't understand how someone can do that. You're hearing them talk about this wedding. They're excited about this wedding. Everybody's involved on her side with this wedding. And you're listening to all of this and you're like, I'm not going to say anything until the very last minute that this wedding isn't going to take place. I'm very confused about Niles. I'm very confused. So obviously she was upset because to her, he was going along with the plan of them getting married. And so she didn't understand, like, okay, I just don't I don't know. I don't know what's been going on between Niles and Matilda. And like, I just don't know what's going on with, I don't know how one person thinks a wedding is for sure taking place. And another person thinks that, well, I can let her know at the last minute that I'm not going to get married or we're not going to get married because she hasn't gone that far in the wedding planning. She, like, I don't understand how you, I don't, what I need to know, how far did she get into the wedding planning? That's what I want to know. How far did she get into it? Because if she was telling him, oh, Niles, I sent out invitations. Niles, we've hired the officiant. Niles, these are the people that are going to be coming to our wedding. This is my dress. Niles, this is the food that we're going to be serving. This is all set. This is all ready to go. And he's just like, oh, okay, whatever. Because, at some point I'm going to let her know that this is not going to take place. Then he's horrible for doing that. Or it wasn't like a theoretical, like they're just theoretically talking about, oh, what if we got married on this trip? And he was like, yeah, what if we did that? How would that, what would that be like if we did end up getting married on this trip? And then it just kind of stopped there. It was just all like wishful thinking on both of their parts. I need to know how far she got with this wedding for me to determine like how horrible Niles is. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know if it was a misunderstanding. I don't know if she took a little bit of information and she just kind of ran with it. I don't know if he really, has set her up to look like Boo Boo the Fool with this wedding. I don't know. I want to know how far she got into planning this wedding. Let's move on to Vee and Sunny. So they're waking up to her first morning in Durban. Nothing happened the night before because she had said that she didn't feel comfortable having sex with him so soon after meeting him. So Sunny takes her for a very romantic gondola ride. So they're on the gondola and, they're talking, they're sitting really close to each other, they're sharing kisses. It's very, very romantic. So this whole entire time, Vea has been struggling on whether to tell him about Rory, or not whether to tell him, but when to tell him about Rory. She's trying to find the right moment to tell him that her ex-boyfriend came with her on the trip. So then all of a sudden, we're watching them on the gondola. They're having a good time. They're being very romantic with one another. And the next thing we see is them, she's running after him. It's nighttime now. And, the cameraman is trying to hurry up and get his camera out. Everything is really shaky. And, people are running around. It's like, what the hell's going on? So 2 hours after the gondola ride, everything hits the fan. So during a break in the filming, um, Vea was going through her phone and she was texting. And Sunny had asked her, "Who are you texting?" Then all of a sudden, Sunny grabs the phone from her. He looks through her phone and he sees pictures of Vea and her ex boyfriend Rory on a plane on their way to South Africa. So, of course, he's upset, he's confused, he's got questions. And she tries to plead her case by telling him that, my ex boyfriend came with me because I've never traveled outside of the United States by myself. So he was just with me for support. I had every intention of telling you. I was just trying to find the right moment. And Sonny wasn't trying to hear none of that. He felt embarrassed because he had done so much for her, on this trip. He did like a lot of things for her to try to make this trip as enjoyable, as comfortable as possible. Like he cooked for her when she first arrived, her first night in South Africa. He cooked a meal for her, but she didn't eat it. He planned this gondola trip. He was trying to make it very special for her, and he feels duped because this whole entire time, she's got this other dude waiting for her at this other hotel. And so he really didn't understand like what the hell was going on. And he tells her to go F herself. He tells her to go back to her ex-boyfriend, to go back to America. He's done. He says, "I'm done with you. I'm done with all of this." So once again, my question is, Vea, out of all the people that you could have taken with you to help you on this trip, why did it have to be your ex-boyfriend on this trip that you're going to be meeting your current boyfriend for the first time? And if absolutely nobody could have come with you, and he was the only one on earth who could come with you on this trip, then if it's very platonic and there's nothing going on, why didn't you tell Sonny before you left America? Why didn't you just tell him, "Hey, I'm on my way to South Africa. I'm on my way to see you. I have major anxiety about traveling by myself. I've never traveled internationally. I've asked everybody and their dog. Nobody was able to come with me except my ex-boyfriend." And maybe have them talk to each other, introduce them to each other on FaceTime. I mean, there's so many things that you could have done to avoid looking like the way you're looking right now, Vea. So many things that you could have done, but you being all secretive, you thought it was real cute that you're going to take your ex-boyfriend with you, hiding your ex-boyfriend, juggling these two men. It was like a Three's Company episode or something. So he was upset. He wasn't going to be, calmed down or soothed by anything that she was saying. And she thinks that she knows exactly what it is. She knows and she understands that he's upset because of the fact that, yes, she traveled here with her ex-boyfriend, but also didn't tell him about it. That's really what's bugging him. But she's going to twist it around and make it seem like, "Oh, so I can't be friends with my ex? There's nothing going on between us. I can't be friends with my ex? Are you that insecure that I can't be friends with my ex?" And he's like, "It's got nothing to do with you being friends with your ex. It's got everything to do with you not telling me that you're bringing another man on this trip, that I thought it was going to be just for the two of us." So Sunny tells her, Vea says that, she needs to find a way to prove to him that she intended to tell him, because his whole thing was, "You didn't tell me." And her whole thing is, "I planned to tell you. I was waiting for the right moment. I wasn't trying to keep him a secret for this whole entire trip." So when they get back to the hotel, Sonny packs his stuff. He packs his stuff and he gives her the hotel key and he tells her, "Have fun, enjoy the rest of your stay here in Durban. I'm going back home." And he's out of there. And the producers are talking to him outside, and he tells the producers, "She really broke my heart. This is really hard. This is, she broke my heart." Yeah, he's not happy at all. I don't know if this whole Sunny Vea thing is real or if they're actors or what the hell is going on, but if this is real, Vea, girl, This is not a good look for you at all, sweetheart. Let's move on to Vanya and Bojo. So, let's see where we're going to start with. So we meet Bojo. He lives in Croatia. Is a semi-pro, or he used to be a semi-pro basketball player. He doesn't get a lot of work playing basketball because he's short. He's a good player, but he's short. So he talks about his relationship, his love life, and he tells us that he was in a very serious relationship with a woman that lasted for 6 years. And he paints this picture that this woman was basically like the biggest love of his life. Like this woman was the one for him. But because he prioritized basketball over his relationship with her, they ended up breaking up. So when they broke up, he started dating Vanya. They met on a dating app. At the time that they met, or that they matched on the dating app, Vanya was in Croatia at the time, I think, or in Bosnia at the time. So they're very near each other. They're very in close proximity of one another, I think. But they had never met because she was on her way out of Europe or whatever. It was just bad timing. But they matched on this dating app. They began a relationship. And when their relationship had started, progressing, he broke up with Vanya to go back to his ex, to reconcile with his ex, the love of his life. And that didn't work out. So then he came back to Vanya. I don't know if Vanya knows about him going back to an ex, but I don't know if she knows how serious that relationship was, how deeply in love he was with that woman. I don't know if Vanya really knows that. So the fact that Vanya would take him back after he was like, you know what? I put a pin in that, Vanya, real quick. I'm gonna go back to my ex. I'm gonna see what's going on over there. If me and her can make it work out, and then if not, we can go ahead and continue with what we were doing over here. I don't see how Vanya can take him back. You break up with me to go and you tell me that, oh yeah, I broke up with you because I was trying to reconnect with somebody from my past, but now I'm back. No, no, absolutely not. I wouldn't do it, but Vanya did. So let me see here. So they broke it off. They reunite. Now he lives with his mom and his aunt. I'm not going to, because things are probably different in Europe. I don't know, but if you are living if you're living abroad, if you're living in another country outside the United States, and you want to date an American woman, I think it's really paramount, very very paramount, that you have your own place to live. Now, I understand that in other cultures, it's not a big deal if adult children live with their parents. It's the norm, but. I'm tired of watching these reality TV shows where the men are supposedly ready to settle down and find a wife or find a girlfriend, and they're still living with their parents. I'm tired of seeing that because it always becomes an issue in the damn relationship, and that gets kind of old and boring after a while. So he still lives with his mom. Another thing that's kind of old and boring is when the parents don't know about your partner. So he tells us that he had not told his mom anything about him and Vanya. His mom has no clue, and the reason why he never told his mom was because his mom would have just taken that information and ran with it. His mother really wants him to find a wife and to settle down and to start having babies. She really, really wants this for him. So if he would have told her, she would have been way too involved, I guess, in the relationship. So if he didn't tell her, then how do you explain to your mom why there's a whole entire camera crew in her house? If you never told her that you were in a relationship with this woman and I don't know. But anyways, so eventually he does tell his mom, which was the day before she was supposed to arrive in Croatia. He tells his mom that he met this woman and she's coming to see him and it's pretty serious. So the mom got really excited. Now, the mom asked him, what did you tell her that you do for a living? And he says, well, I told her that I play basketball, but he doesn't. He's unemployed. So the mom is now worried about that this might run Vanya off once she finds out that he doesn't have a job. So we'll see what goes on with them next week. Let's move on to Lauren and Faith. So they're going to Faith's hometown to visit Faith's family. Um, Lauren has been friend zoned by Faith because she found out that he was cheating, and she found out that he was cheating when he revealed to her that he caught an STD. So now she's friend zoned him, and she told him that I'm going to introduce you to my family as my friend, not my boyfriend, because you have a lot to prove to me in order to regain my trust again. So they're driving to the hotel and they're in the car on their way to the hotel, and they're having a very interesting conversation about tops and bottoms. So Lauren tells Faith, and this kind of shocked Faith. Lauren tells Faith that he is a bottom, that he does not use his uh male parts when he's intimate with his partners. He is a bottom. And so you can see Faith trying to do the math in her head because she's like, well, if you're a bottom and I'm a bottom, how are we going to make this work? But luckily, Lauren tells her that he is willing to top if the situation calls for it. Okay, fine. So they get to the hotel, they're at the front desk, and Faith had booked. Now, Lauren paid for this trip. So he paid for the hotel and all of that. But she had booked one room initially. When they get to the front desk, she asks them if they have any other rooms available because I love Faith, y'all. I love Faith because she has a lot of respect for herself and she's not going to give in until she's ready to reconcile with this man. And it's going to be on her terms. And so she's not going to, give in any kind of way like, okay, well, since we've already booked one room, let's just go ahead and stay in one room together, but you're going to sleep on the couch. Or let's go ahead and stay in one room together, but I'm going to put a whole bunch of pillows between us. She's like, I'm not playing those games. So she asked the front desk clerk, do you have any rooms available? Because, yeah, he's going to have his own room. So luckily they did. She gives him the key to his room. She's like, here's your key to your room, and I'm going to my room. So she ain't playing no games. So then the next day they get to, I think it was the next day. I don't know if it was later on that day or the next day. They're on their way to see her family. And on the bus or the van or whatever, he talks to her about how he wants to buy her family a house. And he tells us that, in American terms, he's broke. He's broke, busted, dusted, nothing going on in the bank account. But in the Philippines, under those standards, he's got some money. So he's like, well, what if I bought your family a home? And Lauren tells us, this guy's homeless. I'm sorry, Faith tells us this guy is homeless. How is he gonna buy my family a house when he ain't got a pot to piss in? He doesn't have a home of his own, but he's gonna buy my family a house. Anyway, priorities, Lauren, priorities. So she was like, you know what? I'm just listening to him. I'm not taking anything that he says too seriously. So they get on the boat that's going to take them to the island where her family. It's a long trip. They flew, they drove. Now they're on a damn boat. They're taking all forms of transportation to get to her family's house. So on the boat to the island, he tries to get all romantic with her. He wants to kiss her on her cheek, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing? Step back." And he's like, "I'm trying to kiss you on the cheek." And she's like, no, don't forget you've been friend zoned. She has a lot of respect for herself. And she ain't playing no damn games. I love Faith. Moving on to Tiger Lily and Adnan. Tiger Lily leaves to come back to America. Yeah, it was emotional for her. It was emotional for him. They don't know when they're going to see each other again. And she's going to work on his spousal visa to get him to America. And that's all I got to say about that. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it on your way out. Please don't forget to rate the video. And if you like this content, subscribe to my channel. And I'll definitely talk to you later.